Hi everyone, welcome to Bonnie Carolee Makes Cards. This inside tunnel card features Alex Syberia Design's Christmas Memories. This card is for my grandson. I always try to come up with something that's a little bit fun and will catch his attention. I'm pretty sure he's going to love this one, so let's get started. I wanted to create a glittery backdrop for the tunnel portion of the card. I'm applying a double-sided tape by Sue Kwang. It's very strong adhesive to 80-pound cardstock. I remove the backing before I apply the next strip. I overlap it so that there's absolutely no gaps without adhesive. A stencil with stars is laid down over the sticky panel. I'm applying Wow Glitter, a couple of different tones of turquoise and a blue. I apply a small amount at a time, rubbing it in with my finger. Before the stencil is removed, it is tapped several times just to remove any of that loose glitter. The stencil is removed and step 1 is now complete. A dark blue glitter is applied over the entire panel. As I work across the panel with the dark blue, it looks initially like I've lost all of the details of the stenciling. But I haven't. The glitter is just sticking a little bit to the previous glittered areas, and so I use a stencil brush to help remove that. And there it is, all cleaned up, a perfect backdrop for the toy ornaments. To make sure that this glitter paper isn't going to have any fallout, I run it through my die cutting machine. The panel is then die cut so that it's ready to adhere to the back of the tunnel card. With the addition of all the glitter, I do not get a clean die cut. I do have to run my scissors along the edges. The toy ornaments from Christmas Memories were printed on Neenah Classic Crest 80-pound cardstock. The images are Copic colored. I stick mainly to blues and grays and pops of gold. The images are small and the coloring is straightforward. I only highlight in key areas like the toy soldier's coat. All of the images were fussy cut. Although the cutting for the main part was fine, it was a little bit tricky working around those very thin hanging strings. But I managed it. With the elements and background all complete, it's ready to start putting together the tunnel card. I'm starting off with 2 pieces of cardstock that measure 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches. One of the pieces is scored at 4.25 inches, resulting in an A2 size card. I burnish it with my bone folder to get a nice sharp crease. A 1/2 inch is trimmed off of what will be the back panel. This is an allowance for the folding mechanism of the tunnel card when it is attached. Okay, so this is the panel that's going to form the tunnel card itself. There will be 3 score lines at a 1/2 inch, at 4.25 inches, and at 4.75 inches. Again, all of the creases are burnished with a bone folder. And this is how the 2 pieces are going to fit together eventually. So you can see that when this is pushed down flat, the 1/2 inch spine on the tunnel card folds down, and that is the accommodation for the 1/2 inch that was taken off the back of the card panel. The inside panel for the tunnel card measures 4.5 inches by 5.5 inches, but just a sliver needs to be taken off both the top and the side. And that is a sliver, less than 1/8 of an inch. So the panel is going to be scored on the long side at 1/4 of an inch, and again on the other side, but in order to get it correct, you do have to flip the panel around because of that sliver that was shaved off. And once again, the creases are burnished with a bone folder. You can use any nesting die set that you have to create your windows. I'm using an older one by Penny Black called Antique Frames. The die is going to be centered on the box frame. The opening is on the left. I'm using a little bit of Post-it note to hold that die in place while I die cut it. I'm going to use the next size down in the antique frames to cut the window on the inset panel. To get this window in the right place, the inside panel is lined up inside the boxcar by fitting the creases together. It's flipped over and then the die is centered in the window opening. I'm going to be hanging on to the 2 die cuts from the windows. They will be used on the front of the card. For any kind of an interactive card, you do need a strong adhesive. I'm using Sook Wang, a double-sided tape. The width of this tape is 1/8 of an inch. It is placed on the outside edges of the inside panel. And that's how it's going to fit together, but first I want to do some embossing. First, some arc ink is applied to the blending tool and it is just run along the window's edge. I'm using a silver embossing powder by Wow. A watercolor brush cleans up those edges and gets them looking just the way I want them. The edges of the windows for both panels are embossed. While everything is out, I also emboss the edges of the window cutouts that are for the front of the card. The release tape on one side of the inset panel is removed. The panel is completely flattened out and then pushed right up against the edge of that first crease in the boxcar, which is now a tunnel card. Before continuing with the card assembly, the glitter panel is attached to the back of the tunnel card using some double-sided tape. I'm also going to attach the ornaments. Make sure that the ornaments are oriented correctly. I make sure that the opening of the tunnel card is on my left. For the train and present combo, I apply a little bit of liquid adhesive on the string and also on the corner of the train so that it catches the edge of the window for some extra stability. The string has been adhered to the underside of the window, the train on the outside of the window. And now for the horse and drum. This combo was just a little bit too long, so I cut the string and then used some liquid adhesive to glue it back together at a shorter length. The horse and drum were attached directly to the background using some foam tape for a little bit of dimension. Before continuing with the tunnel card insert, I'm going to work on the front of the card. The dies used to cut the windows are also used to cut some black sheet foam. The die cuts are mounted on them. For the front of the card, a snowy stencil is used to apply Gina K's Glitz Glitter Gel. The gel does not take long to dry, and then I'm ready to finish up the assembly of this card. Back to the tunnel card insert, the release tape is removed from the other side of the insert panel, and the front of the tunnel card is closed on top of it. And so all that's left to do is to attach this to the card base. 1/4 inch double-sided tape is added to the flap where the side opens up. Tape is also added to the back of this tunnel card insert. After the release paper is removed, it is attached to the back of the card base, fitting it right up against the crease. To finish up, the tunnel card insert is flattened out, the release paper removed, and then the front of the card closed on top of it. As with many of the interactive cards, they need to be conditioned, so I open and close it several times. The foam-mounted window die cuts are stacked and adhered to the front of the card. I use a couple of books to weight it down so that there's good contact between the foam and the stenciled background. This sentiment from Simon Says Stamps Tiny Words Christmas is stamped on matte silver cardstock using VersaFine ink. There's a chance that it might smear on this slick surface, so I clear emboss it. A die from Simon Says Stamps Sentiment Labels is used to cut a nice straight sentiment strip. It is adhered for the little toy soldier to hold. The soldier is attached to the front of the card using foam squares. I first embellish the inside of the card. There's a lot of blue going on there, so I add in some accents of red. Gold glitter drops add some shine to the toys. Nouveau Crystal Drops Morning Dew is added to the window of the train to make it stand out, the little horse's eyes, and to top up all of the sequins. Then this card is set aside to dry overnight before I finish the front. Fast forward to the next day. More sequins are added to the front and gold glitter drops highlight the toy soldier's uniform. Black Nouveau drops help the eyes of the toy soldier and the buttons on his uniform stand out. Finishing the sequence off with Nouveau Crystal Drops Morning Dew give them a jewel-like appearance. And that wraps up this vintage style Christmas card featuring Alex Syberia Design's Christmas Memories. I hope you enjoyed this inside tunnel card tutorial. As always, I appreciate your visit and wish you a very Merry Christmas.